Welcome back to Design Bundles YouTube channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Crystal, and today we are going to go back to the basics when it comes to silhouette. Whether you guys are just now getting into purchasing a silhouette, maybe you own a silhouette and you want to try to get it out of the box, or maybe you're wanting to switch from another die cutting machine, or simply just learn how to use your silhouette. Either way, I have you covered today. So let's go ahead and head on over to designbundles.net. From here, I want to show you guys some of the files that I'm using today and what I would recommend for a beginner. So this is one of our bundles here. This is the huge SVG bundle. It has more than 700 designs. Now, this is only $4 currently, and if it's not on sale, it's only $8, and you're getting 700 files. So this is perfect for any beginner, even if you have a Cricut machine. So the really cool thing about our files is they include a DXF. Now, why is this important? When you first purchase a silhouette, in order to upload what's an SVG file, you need a DXF. So a DXF is essentially the exact same thing as an SVG. They work in the same way, but Silhouette has made it to where if you purchase their machine right out of the box, you can't use the SVG version. You actually have to pay an upgrade to be able to use the SVGs. So with the basic model, which is all you need, you can use the DXF as well as your PNGs and JPEGs and things like that. So today I'm going to show you guys how to upload those and how to work with them. So like I said, this is 700 designs and it is across the board. Lots of fun stuff, even from holidays, graduation, Mother's Day, weddings, just some fun stuff in general. Lots of things are included in here. So like I said, highly recommend that you guys check it out. For the next one, I'm going to be showing for some PNG files. I'm using this bundle right here. It is so cute. I absolutely love it. Now, we have a ton of PNGs, obviously, lots of sublimation and just lots of PNGs you would use in general, whether you were making stickers or maybe you're using a print and cut project. So maybe like printable vinyl or printable HTV and things like that too. So lots of those files, but this is the one I'm using today. Now, all of the files that I'm using are linked down below. Now, when you first purchase your Silhouette and you've downloaded your software, this is what you should see. So with the basic model, you should see something similar to this. You're gonna have your mat, you're gonna have a page, whether it's set at 8.5 by 11 or it's completely covering this, and those are the things I'm gonna go over today. Now, I'm gonna go over the absolute basics, how to import your files, how to upload them essentially, and how to work with them, how to change colors. That way, if you want it to look like an SVG and you wanna have all of the colors while you're working with your file, I'm gonna show you how to weld and things like that. So a lot of the basics just to get you up and running. All right, so let's go ahead and start off with our main screen here. So this is obviously our canvas and then our page. So the very first thing I want to do is show you how to adjust your page. So if I was going to be working with a 12 by 12, I'm just working with adhesive vinyl, or I was working with HTV, to change your material size, you're going to do that right here. This is your page. Once you open it, you're going to get a little screen that'll pop up like this. So anytime you pop on any of these here, you're going to have a second screen pop up here. Another thing you can do outside of changing these, so for example, if I was working with my 12 by 24, I could change it. So if you notice, I scroll down here, it's showing me my 12 by 24 mat. Now, another thing that you can do is get rid of your mat in general. So if you don't want to see your mat and you just want to see your material, you can do that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this back up to the auto cameo. And then when it comes to your media size, which is this right here, our page, we are going to change it right here. So for example, right now it's set on an 8.5 by 11, which would be perfect if you're using cardstock or you were using smaller materials or even your print and cut materials. So sticker paper and things like that. Now you could definitely set it to the 12 by 12. So say for example, I'm using a 12 by 12 mat and I'm going to load a whole piece of adhesive vinyl that's 12 by 12. I could do that as well. All right, so you can do all of those. You can dial in your width and height and all of that stuff here, but you don't need to mess with those. That's where I want to go with the basics. We're going to have a few different tutorials coming out here, so stay tuned. So this is going to become a whole series. So when we come back into our next one, we'll come into some intermediate as well as some more pro skills. So just keep an eye out for that. And if it's already available, it will play directly in a playlist after this video here. All right, so really that's all you need to know whenever it comes to the page here. You could also change the material if you wanted to. So say for example, I visually want to see that I'm working with a pink adhesive vinyl, or maybe even I want to dial that in and get a different color here. Just I can do that here. I can really dial it in and get a light pink if I want to, so I can see that right here. Or you can just simply keep it white. So whatever you want to do, you can do that here. Now, another thing that you can do is you can rotate your mat. So if I want to rotate my mat and I'm, working sideways for some reason, I want to do that, you can also do that as well. A few other things that you can do is you may want to see your print border. So if I was working with a print and cut, it's going to bring that area up right here. So if I was using that, for example, I'm going to bring this back to our letter 8.5 by 11. You're going to see that is really designed for your print and cut. So you don't need your print border. Now, if you want that cut border, that's in red. So you don't want to go outside of that. But if you don't want to see it, you could definitely turn it off. I keep mine on. So if you notice, we go back over here to that 12 by 12. It's going to cover that whole 12 by 12. Basically, your red line is just telling you need to stay inside of this work surface here. So I like to keep mine on. Now moving over to our grid, you have a few options here as well. So you may be somebody that has to see your grid. So for example, if you are familiar with Cricut, you're usually seeing this grid here. So that is something that I like to see. So that's something I would recommend. But if not, if you want to just see your work surface like this, you can definitely do that as well. I do like to see my grid because I know that these are inches and then these are half an inch. So whenever I size that out, I can visually look at that as well. So pretty much for me, for beginner friendly, I think this is all you need to work with on the grids. When it comes to your print and cut, let's go ahead and change our paper over here to that 8.5 by 11 and let's talk print and cut. So whenever it comes to your print and cut, you're going to want to turn on your registration marks, and you can do that here. So to be able to see those registration marks and where you can have your design, that's where you're going to do that. So you can toggle that on and off right here. So you're going to want to do that depending on what you're working with. So like I said, if you're working with a print and cut project, you're going to want to go ahead and turn those on. You can adjust all of those right here, but pretty much that's the basics you want to work with for print and cut, just to get right out the door. That's all you really need to mess with. Another thing that you may want to add is print bleed. So if you are wanting to add that print bleed around your design for whenever you cut out, so you may want to turn that on or off there as well. So really for a basic, just getting started, the only things you need to know inside of here is turning on your registration and whether you want to print bleed or not. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn those back off, and we're going to change our material back over here to the 12 by 12. All right, so we've left on the grid. Now, that's just getting started and getting your mat ready. Now, you're not going to do this every single time, so whenever you exit out of here, it saves those settings. So the next time you come in, it's going to come right here. So just depending on how you want that, each time you may need to come in and adjust those. And to close that tab, you're just simply going to click the paper once again. So that's your basics of setting up your canvas. Next step is uploading your file, whether it's a DXF or a PNG. All you're simply going to do is you can come over here to this file folder that is open, or you can simply come up here to file and go to new as well. You can also go to open. That's what I would recommend, because if we go to new, it's actually going to start us a new tab. You see how another one opened here. So if you go to file and open, it's actually going to open it to place it on the current tab. So what you're simply going to do is you're going to find the file you're working with. And like I said, whenever it comes to your Silhouette Basic, you're going to look for that DXF file, which is going to be your SVG. So you're going to find it. So say for example, we're going to bring in this crab right here. We're going to click on OK. So I'm going to upload that and just give it a second. All right, so as you can see, we have uploaded our crab. So you can see that we have these red marks here, and this is our cut lines. And if we click on it, we're going to be able to select it. So once you click on that, you see how these are individual, which is what I'm going to get into today. So I'm going to show you guys how to attach those and make one solid file. And I'm also going to show you guys how to change colors on here so you can visually see that as well. But I just wanted to show you that's how you're going to bring in your file. Now let's go ahead and show you how to bring in the PNG as well. So to open a new tab, we can click on this plus right here to start a new one, or once again, you can click on your little file folder right here, which is going to bring that in. But if you go to file, and once again you go to new, you're going to open that second tab like we talked about before. going to go ahead and exit out of there, and let's bring in a PNG. So what I'm going to do this time is we're going to click on that file folder, and then we are simply going to go down to this folder here, and I'm going to bring in one. For example, I'm going to bring in this one right here, and just like that, I have brought in a PNG. So like I said, you're able to bring in those PNGs as well as the JPEGs and then your DXF file. So it's super duper easy to bring those in. All right, so now that you know how to bring in your DXF files as well as your PNGs, how to customize and get your page set up, let's go over some of these basics of your little functions that you have. All right, so starting from the left, if you click on this right here, which is a blank page, it's simply going to open up a new tab. So like how we did that here, file, new, it's the same thing. So this is going to be a quicker way to open that new tab. Now this one right here, we've already discussed that. That's to import your DXF and PNG files. Next up is save. So if we want to save our project, you're simply going to hit save, and then we are going to save it to our desktop, for example. So where do you want to save it? I'm going to pick my desktop, and then I can name it here, and then just click OK, and it's going to save that file for us. Next up is print. So this is very important if you are using a print and cut feature. So for example, it's not coming in correctly. I'll show you that a little bit more in a minute, but this is basically going to be the printer, if you will, for your print and cut projects. So it's going to bring up an example of what it's going to look like. So right now you can see I'm actually cutting that off. So if I hit cancel and I go ahead and size this down, go ahead and size that down just a little bit. And then, which I'm going to get into all of these here in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and bring in that registration, turn it on, turn my page over here to, go ahead and do our media size. Let's go ahead and do an 8.5 by 11. Say for example, I have everything turned on. I've got the print and cut going. I've got my registration. I've got it between the cut lines, as you can see here. So if I went to printer, you are going to see that it's got our print and cut, our registration marks, and we are perfect. So that's just the printer we're going to be using. Once you hit print, it's going to print it out and it's going to have those registration marks on there for you. Another way that you can definitely print is by going to file and then print from here as well. So you can click on the printer, which is just super easy, or you can definitely do it up there as well. All right, so next up we have a pair of scissors. So if you click on the scissors, what this is going to do is it's going to cut. And then if I click on the screen and I now click on the clipboard here, it's going to paste it. So if you were needing to cut something from one thing and paste it to another area, you can definitely do that. So let me show you really quick. So let's go ahead and cut our scissors, right? Now let me go back to this project. Let's say I moved over a tab. I click here and I can hit paste. So it's really cool because if I want to add this to something else, for example, let's come right over here and I'm going to click on this screen. I can combine two. So it's really, really neat that you can actually do that. I'm going to go ahead and hit, I'm going to go ahead and copy that one more time and we'll actually take it back to where we started out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and, so basically that's your copy and paste, if you will, but it's not copy because it's not leaving a copy, it's cut and paste. You're moving from one spot to the next. All right, so to copy, you see we have the scissors. Now to copy it, we can actually hit on the middle one here where you see 2 sheets of paper. So if we do that, it's not going to cut it. It's not going to take it away. It's going to let us duplicate. So now I click somewhere here on the screen. I click on that little clipboard once again, and that's going to allow me to duplicate it. So that's a super easy way to duplicate things. So once again, that's just that. If you hover above it, you can see where it says copy. And then if you hover above over here, you can see paste. You can do that with any of these up here. All right, so let's go ahead and hit delete there. All right, now you have your undo and your redo. So if I hit undo, it's going to bring our design back in, and redo, take it back away. So you've got your undo, redo there. And then we have select all. So let's go ahead and bring this, let's go ahead and move on over to this one here. So this is a DXF file. So say for example, I want to select everything here. We can do that right here. So if you hover above, once again, it's going to tell you. So it's selected everything for us. Now, if your X here is going to obviously deselect everything, and then for your next one is select by color, which I'm going to get into that here in just a little bit. So for example, if I have this is green and then this is green and then these are yellow, etc., or pink, I can select them by colors so that way we can attach those, or I need to move them off screen. Once again, we'll get into that a little bit later. All right, so we have zoom in, zoom out, just as it says, to zoom in and out of your design there, and then drag over the shape and zoom. So let me go back over here really quick. So if you click on this here, if I use my mouse, it's going to zoom in and out. So that's another way to do that. You can just kind of shift that. That way you can do it with your mouse as well. And then you have zoom in and out using your mouse. So same thing. So I can use that. See, I'm holding my mouse. I'm just holding it down, and I can do that as well. As long as I did not make you guys sick. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom us back in one. Scoot our map back over so we can see a little bit here. Last up is we have pan using your mouse. So you can move this whole thing around if you wanted to as well. So just another option there. And then you have fit to window. So if you're wanting to fit your screen, so that way you can just fit. So right now this is made at the maximum that it can go on our screen. All right, so those are just your basics across the top. Super easy so far. Now, right over here on this side, this thing is actually really cool. So if I click on my design right here and actually come over here and I change it to pink, I can make this design a solid. So if I'm actually wanting to just cut out the this whole piece, I could do it from there as well. All right, so moving on over to this one right here. I'm gonna come to this page here just so I can show you guys. So you see how right now my cut lines are black except for this one. If I wanna change these, say for example, I want my cut lines to be red, I can come in here and I can change all of those. So by clicking up here, I can change them to red, green, whatever I want to, so I know and I can visually see that those are cut lines. Same thing here, if I wanna change these from a line, I want it to cut in a dotted shape, I could definitely do that. So say for example, that would be beneficial if you were creating a score line. You could definitely do a cut, so that way whenever it does the cuts, you can just score that really easy. So that's what that's going to allow you to do. All right, so next up, this is going to be changing the line. That's just changing all of your line. I think that's probably a little bit more intermediate. And then coming down to, I'm going to scroll back over to this design here. So from here we have our width and height. So you can simply change the size of your design by dragging in and out right here, or you can come up to where it says width and height. So for example, if I want to change this to 5 inches wide, I could do that here. All right, now to make it to where it's not so proportional, so say for example I hit unlock and I'm wanting my height to be 5 inches, it's going to do that to where it's not keeping it proportional, and then I could go ahead and lock that back. So that's another option as well. Go ahead and undo that so we can fix it. And then I wouldn't worry about any of this. It's scrolling right along. You do have, where this is your alignment tool. So if we are lining things like our font and things like that, you could do that here. That's going to be, keep it centered, right, left. That's going to be this tool right here, which we'll get into later. And then you have your, center to page. So if I need to center this, I can definitely do that here. And then we have, group selected. So let's go ahead and duplicate this little guy here just so I can show you. All right, so let's go ahead and hit that copy button here, and then we're gonna just click on the screen and hit paste. All right, so we've got 2 of these here. Next up, we are going to have the group tab. So right now you notice that it's not highlighted. It's not gonna do that until you have more than one piece selected. So to select 2 pieces, all you simply have to do is hit shift and then select the other one, or once again we could come over here to where we can hit select all, and it's going to grab both of those there, and now you're going to see that that's going to pop up. So from here we can group these. So now this is now one file, so this is going to be together. So if you need to group something, you're going to do it there. If you need to ungroup something, you're going to do it here. So sometimes when you have your files come in, they're going to come in grouped. So if you need to ungroup something, you're going to do it there as well. All right, so next up, we're gonna have bring to the front and things like that. So right here, we can see that this is in the front. So if I select this one and I need to bring it to the front, I can do it here. And then the same thing here. So if I need to send it to the back and then send it to the very front. So if you were working with, say I had 5 files here, you could do that here. So you can skip and bring everything to the front or the back. So that's what that is going to do. So the same thing here, if I come over, let's come back to this one for these next ones here. So let's go ahead and select everything once again by selecting this here. Now you're going to see that these will highlight. For this one up here at the top, this is going to be weld. So if we wanted to weld everything together, we could do that here. All right, for the next one, we have offset. Offset's going to be perfect if you are creating, for example, a sticker and you're wanting the offset all the way around, or for example, I'm creating like a 2-layer project. So I have the adhesive of my offset down and then my words on the front. So to do so, you're simply just going to hit offset right here. And when you do that on the right, this screen is going to open. So it highlights the one, which we're going to get into all of these in a minute. It's going to highlight the offset panel, and that's going to pop up. So if you want to make a bigger offset, you can do that right over here. So we can just slide this guy. So you're going to click on offset. So you can do offset or internal offset. So offset, and then you're going to drag that line. So if we want that offset to be much bigger, we can definitely do that here, and then we would just hit apply. So that is going to be your offset. Now this one right here is duplicate. So I just duplicated my offset layers. You can definitely do that. I'm going to hit delete, or if I'm wanting to duplicate my file here, obviously we can do that as well. So outside of copying and pasting over here and cutting, you can definitely just use your 2 squares right here, which is going to be your duplicate. So if you need to delete anything, you can click on the X up here, that's going to delete, or you can simply, like I said, hit the delete here. So another thing I want to quickly show you before I move on to anything else is if you're ever, you can't remember, trying to hover over here and you just can't remember how to do something, all you simply have to do is come up to help and type it in. So if I want to type in delete, I can go ahead, let's see, delete. It's going to go ahead and show me. So if I go over here to help, if I go to delete, it's going to bring that up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, scroll over here, and I can hit delete from here as well. So if you ever get confused and you can't remember, and that's just something silly, but just to show you. So for example, let's go ahead and talk about flipping something. So if I want to flip something, so if I was going to be doing this for sublimation or something, and I need to flip anything, I'm going to type in flip, and then I could go ahead and hit mirror, and I can do horizontally. So I could go ahead if I wanted to, I would go above here and it showed me where it's at. So essentially it's under object and then it's up here at the top. So if I go to object, now I can see where the mirror is, and say for example I want to flip horizontal, it's going to flip it backwards for me. So that help really does help essentially. So like I said, just if I wanted to type in mirror, you see that's happening there. If you hover, it's going to just show you where you need to go, if that makes sense. So it's amazing. I absolutely love that. All right, so let's go ahead and go over the pieces here on the left. So for example, this is our pointer tool. Obviously, this is the piece that allows us to grab everything, click on everything. So the next one here, these ones here are a little bit more advanced, and I want to save those for another tutorial. But if you need a shape, those are right here. So it's the drawing tool. So if you need a square, click on the square there. You're simply going to drag it out. Now, if you want to change the dimensions for this, for example, I want this to be a 4x4 square. I'm going to unlock it. I'm going to type in 4 for my width. And then for my height, I'm going to hit 4, and each time I'm hitting enter on the keyboard, and I'm going to lock it back. So if you ever need a shape, essentially it's super easy. So you have your square, and you can do the exact same thing for your circle. So if you hover above it to the right, it's going to open up your little panel here. I'm going to click on this little oval here, and I can do the same thing. So I can create my circle, and I can adjust that however I need. So I want that to be a 2-inch circle. I'm going to hit the width there and hit enter. So that's how you're going to do your basic shapes. All right, for the letter A over here, this is going to be your text. This is how you're going to add your font. So you're simply just going to start typing over here. Now, if you want to change the style of font, the size, and all those things, you can do that up here at the top. So you can drop this down, pick it from here, change your size right here, bold, italic, all of that kind of stuff, center your font, all of those kind of things here. So that's going to be this area. Or you can open up the panel on the right. So from over here, you can do the same thing as well. So say, for example, I choose beige rainbow for my font. If I want any sort of line spacing, I can do that. And then I can also turn my kerning on and off, which is going to allow the font to go together. So whenever it types out, it's going to go all together. So that's going to be your kerning. So once you have selected everything, you're going to just simply close that tab and you can start to type out. So say, for example, I'll type out design bundles. Now, I do want to show you guys something really quickly. If you guys want to weld this entire piece here, so what I would do is grab this piece right here, and in order to do that, you're going to go ahead and open up this tab right here. So it's called the modify panel. It's the circle in the square. If you click on this, we could go ahead and weld it. So if you click on the weld, it's going to weld these perfectly together. So where the kerning has allowed it to go together, I don't want those cut lines for the pieces that may overcross. You can definitely just do that by clicking on the weld from here, or once again, you could definitely do that up here at the top as well. So you can use the weld up here. All right, so for our last two here, this one right here is simply the eraser. So say for example, I brought this design in, I want to get rid of that heart right there. You have the eraser tool, we can definitely do that there. Now for the next one I want to show you is the knife tool. I really love this, and this is something that's beginner friendly. If I want to cut my image in half, whether it's going to be an SVG and I'm using adhesive vinyl and I need to make a big sign, I can cut my design perfectly in half, so that way whenever I go to put it on my sign, it's perfect. So let's say for example, we take this design, this is going to be a print and cut. Let's go ahead and turn on our registration marks just so we can see what we're doing. And then if we need to, we can show our print border as well. What we're going to do is say I'm making, this is a print and cut design. I'm making a t-shirt with Caesar Easy Subleave, and I need it to be larger than this piece here. So say for example, I'm wanting the design to be 11, I have 11.37 here, right? It's not going to fit. So if I cut this guy in half, I could essentially, get this half on here and then get the other half. So I want to cut it, and I'm going to cut it probably making sure it's staying within my print border. Let's go ahead and draw us a line, maybe somewhere right here. So all you have to do is take your knife. So if I need to cut this in half, we're going to take our knife tool, and then we're just going to go from top to bottom, keeping a nice straight edge there. And you just want to make sure you're outside of the design, and then we're going outside of the design on the bottom. Let go. And now if we go back up to our pointer tool, this is in half. Super cool, right? So now when I know when I go to line these back up later, they're going to be the exact size I need them to be, and they're going to line up perfectly. So I can set this guy out of the way. I'm going to send this guy to the printer first by hitting that print. You're going to see this pop up here really quickly. All right, so that'll be my first print and cut project. Then when I'm ready, I'll scoot this guy out of the way, and I will bring this guy back in here, and I'll do the same thing. I'll go ahead and send it over to the printer. Now, obviously you'd print, then you'd cut, come back, print, and cut. And then I'll be able to line those up. Once again, you can do the same thing with those DXF files, so I can do that with adhesive vinyl. If I'm making a great big sign, you could cut them into 4s if we need to. So that is something really cool in itself as well. All right, so let's go ahead and go over the icons on the right-hand side. Number one, we've already went over all of our page setup, so we don't need that one here. This one right here is going to be your pick scan. This is where you would be able to, if you have a pick scan mat, you're going to be able to scan it so you know where you're cutting. So we're going to get into that in another video later. So this is our fill tool. So this is what I was talking about. When you bring in a DXF file, they're just going to be little pieces like this. You're not going to have any color. So what we can do is go to this little fill tool right here, and we can color these in. So say for example, I'm going to click on this top piece here, and let's just say that was green. I'm going to click on my green pieces, and then I can go ahead and try to select as many of these as I can here. And then I'm going to change those to yellow, so I can start to do that. It looks like I got a few more, so I can go ahead and click on that one. Holding down my shift, I can select on a few more pieces, so I can try to grab as many as I can. And then I'm gonna do the same thing, changing those to those yellow. And then once again, I'm just gonna complete that until all of those pieces are colored in. So if you're somebody that has to see that color, you really wanna see all that, you can do it. So if I wanna change these here, say for example, I'm going to grab my L here, I'm holding down that shift, grab that H, grab that A, and there we have it. I could go ahead and change those to pink if I wanted to. And then these are my cut lines, so if I want to change my cut line back to white, so that way I can visually see that that would be a cut line. I changed the wrong one, but you get the point. So I could go all the way into, so for example, let me go ahead and try to select this little bitty piece right here. I'm going to click on that white, so I can bring that back in so you can see that I just have these. So I can change these teensy tiny little pieces to white as well, and really just get all the way into the detail. So feel free to do that as well, so you can go ahead and color in all those pieces. So that's what your fill tool is going to allow you to do. All right, so moving right along, this one right here, once again, saving it for another video. Same thing with this trace tool. I'm going to go ahead and save it for another video. And then we have our, I'm going to save this next one. And then I've already went over the textile. So you know, if you're using your text on the left, you can use the tab over here on the right. Same thing for the transform. This is more going to be for your font and things like that. So we're going to save this one for another tutorial later as well. All right, so next up is going to be our replicate tool. So this little star right here, this is going to be perfect if you were somebody wanting to get into creating stickers and stuff like that. So for example, I would go ahead and scale this down to size. And if I wanted to make a whole full sheet of these, I can simply see where it says fill page. I can do that and it's going to do it perfect for me. So if you are making adhesive stickers or even cutting out a shape and you need to mirror something multiple times, you can definitely do it there. So I'm actually going to go ahead and hit the undo button, and then you're going to have the same thing. So it's going to basically duplicate it. I'm going to show you. It's going to duplicate it down. So you can, if you hover, it's mirror below, above, and all of that stuff. So for example, if that's the way I wanted to mirror too, I could do that, delete this, and I have my mirror copy. Or maybe you're just, creating copies like that. You could do the same thing right or left if that makes sense. So just make sure that you have that selected, and then it's going to go ahead and do that for you. So once again, this is such a great tool if you guys are wanting to, make more than one, and you don't want to sit here and try to, come up here at the top and duplicate over and over and over to fill the sheet. You can definitely just do it here. Just make sure that you size it down to the proper size so that way you can fit more than one. So say for example, if I had it about this size here, if I did fill page, it may only do 2 that it can fit. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one here. Bring it down just a little bit more. I'm trying to get it to do 4, and so same thing, so 6. So however many, depending on that size, it's going to do that for you. Next up is going to be our modify tool. So if you come right here where it shows the square and the circle, we're going to go ahead and click this. This is going to allow you to weld, crop, do all those kind of things, and this is also going to make it one file. So you know how like if we were using Cricut Design Space, you have attach, you have weld, and things like that. So if we wanted to, say for example, I want to make this one file. Right now, these are little pieces, so they're moving. I have moving pieces here. And so say for example, I was trying to move another one. It just didn't want to. Okay, so say this is multiple pieces here, but I want it to be one solid piece. I'm going to go ahead and hit undo here just to put everything back. So say for example, I want this to be one solid piece. I could go ahead and come up here to where it selects everything, and then I'm going to go to make. So this is going to make a compound path. So you hear those things and it scares you, which we're going to get into our intermediate tutorial. So if we want to make a basic compound path, I want all of these pieces to be connected. So when I go to move them from left to right around my mat to cut out, they're together. All you have to do is click make. So now this is one solid file. That has probably got to be the easiest tip that you have heard today. So if you bring in a DXF file, you know that they are in multiple pieces. So same thing with this Aloha Beaches, you see that they are individual. And if we wanted to make that one solid file, once again, you're going to select all right up here at the top. You can also select everything essentially by just dragging and dropping over everything. I just like to click select all up here to make sure I have done that. And once again, you're going to hit make, and that's going to be they're going to be together. So you've made a compound path the most easiest way you could have. So just like that. And if we want to fill this color in, say for example, I want to fill this black, we can do that here. Boom, just like that. So you want to make this one solid SVG. You can see it. You don't want individual pieces, and you want it to be all one color. You can definitely do that right here. So once again, this is going to allow you to do the crop and all of those kind of things right here. So once again, we'll really get into all of this later. And if we want to release this from a compound path, you're simply just going to release it. So if it's, for example, you can see now we should have back to individual pieces. So essentially, if you need to release it for any reason, you can definitely do that there. All right, so next up we have our offset tool, which you've seen come up earlier. We already talked about this. So if you wanted to create an offset, you can definitely do that. So say for example, I wanted to create one on this, you can just simply click offset, and then we can adjust that like so. So once again, we've already talked about that, but if you need to bring that up, you can do it right here as well. For pop-up, we're going to go ahead and skip that one today. I'm also going to skip on the stippling, as well as the embossing. This is going to be using those outside tools, which we will get into in a later tutorial. And then we're also going to go ahead and skip your sketch. So that's going to be your basic 101. And like I said, if you take any tip today, it's going to be how easy it was to make a compound path and to fill it in. Super easy. All right, so now that we've went over everything essentially up here on the left and right, What we have up here is design. So just to go over basics is design and send. So once you send it, you're ready to cut it out. This is where you're gonna go. So you can see anything that is red, that is your cut line. So all of these pieces are going to cut out. And what's really cool about the silhouette is it's not gonna move it and separate it onto a different mat. It's gonna cut wherever you set it. So if I set it on the mat right here, as you can see, if we go back to design, if I select everything and I scoot this up here and then I go to send, wherever I've placed it on my mat is exactly where it's going to cut. So if you have your machine plugged in and turned on, you're going to have all that there. But to change your material is right here. So you're going to choose all that here. You can search things and you're simply going to click on it, whatever it may be. And then you're going to have your action. So whether you are cutting, that should already be, you know, added for you. And then you should have no cut. What we're running this on is a cut. I'm going to get into all those extras later. And then you would simply just go ahead and hit send. Once your machine is connected, you're going to hit send. And like I said, we'll get into doing our final cut in a whole nother tutorial. Now you can definitely do your print and cut from this screen as well. So if this was one of our print and cut designs, I'm going to go ahead and come back over here. So for example, this is our print and cut. We hit send. I know this is way too big of a mat, but once again, if I wanted to print from here, I could definitely do it from here as well. So you can do that on your send screen. Once again, I'm going to go over all of these other things in a whole nother tutorial, but basically all you need to know is to change your material here. You need to know that it's on a cut setting, and then once it's loaded, you're simply going to hit send. Test is going to do those little tiny test cuts for you. Like I said, we'll do that later. Now, if you need to switch between machines, you'll also do that here. So say, for example, you can choose whatever machines you have connected there. And that wraps up the basics of the silhouette. So if you guys just now unboxed it, or you guys are just trying to learn, these basics are going to get you up and running and making projects today. So if you guys want to see some more of those intermediate, make sure you guys stay tuned or come back here. Another thing that I do recommend is that you guys check out our Facebook group. We have a Facebook community group. There's hundreds of thousands of other crafters. We have giveaways over there, freebies, plus lots of help. So if you have a question along the way, people are going to be there to answer it right away, and you can share your projects or get tons of inspiration. You can also find that link down below. We have other social media as well for TikTok, Instagram, and all of the above. So I hope you guys have found this helpful. If you did, please hit the like button down below and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.